Hello and welcome to this video where I talk about using maths in Doodly. You can see here I made a short video where I explain Pythagoras' theory. So I'm going to show you what I did and how you can use maths in Doodly. So here we can see I've written out my formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. When we preview that, it writes as it should. So the way I did this was I just put an element, a text element, for every time I needed to write something out. So I did an a squared, I did a plus b, a squared, I did equals c and squared. And that way it writes out really nicely. Now, one of the things I did was I used Glassboard because I think that looks so much better. So let's think about this equation here. There are other ways we can do it, and I'm going to show you that now. So another way you can do this is you can generate your equation, and this is going to be better for more complex equations, but you can generate your equation using an online editor. I'm using a CodeCogs editor online, and it's free. So I would type in a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I get an image generated down here. So I can download the image as SVG, PNG, etc. And I can make it as big as I want, up to 20 points. And I get a URL here. So I generated that and I imported it into Doodly, and it's imported as an image. So you can see here, I can make it bigger and smaller. You can see it's also transparent, which is incredibly useful. If you had certain images, they wouldn't be transparent and that would cause you problems. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this to the top so that we can see it draw in. Let's have a look at this now. So you can see one of the problems you have is it's drawn in like an image, and that isn't particularly useful to us. That doesn't look particularly authentic. So one thing you can do is you can go and you can edit the path. The problem you have is it's a very small image. So it's actually really difficult to go and edit this path, to do a drawing in path, because the image is so small. You can see if I do this, it's really tricky to go and draw this in properly, just because it's so small. Even though I can rearrange the size, it's very small. That's okay, but it's not very good. So there are other ways we can generate our formulas, but they follow the same pattern, and that pattern is generating them elsewhere and importing them in as an image. We could go to Google Docs and we could make an equation using their equation editor, or we could just type it out and we could do things like use superscripts. And then we can just take a screenshot of this and import it into Doodly. However, if we take a screenshot, we're going to get a white background. So this isn't ideal either. Now, another thing we could do if we wanted to speed it up is we could split that equation into parts and drawing in parts. We could do a plus b equals c. We could put that in, make it as big as we want, copy and paste it, and change it to spacing those twos out and just adjusting it with spaces. Like so, and then we can put that in like that. I'm just going to change that spacing there. So we can do that. The problem we have is it's not going to look particularly natural when we draw it in, but let's have a look anyway. So that doesn't look particularly natural. That's not how you would write that formula, but that is a quicker way of doing it. Now here I've got the square root sign, and Doodly does have some inbuilt math symbols. If I type in math, we get lots of fancy things. I mean, these are just equations you might put in the background. Down here we have some other maths things, calculators, graphs, protractors, etc., statistical example diagrams. But the ones I'm really looking at are these. We've got some math symbols here. We've got equals, plus, minus, square roots. However, I don't think they're particularly good. I don't think they look particularly good. And one of the problems you have with square root is that the top of the square root has to cover what's being square rooted. So I'm going to get rid of those. So this, for example, wouldn't be able to fit in, and we can only scale it in both directions. We can't scale it in one direction, i.e. we can't make it longer that way. So that might fit in there and be okay, but this wouldn't fit in here and be okay over this part. So I'm going to get rid of that. So I went on the internet and I downloaded some square root images. This one is a PNG, I think, and it doesn't have a transparent background. So you can see it has white and it's going to obscure what you want to cover. So that isn't going to work for you. So I went to SVG repo and I managed to find a square root symbol. And that square root symbol is an SVG, so it's transparent and it's infinitely scalable. The problem we have here is that it's short here. So that's okay for this, but it's not okay for that. So the way I overcame this was I added a line here. Now I couldn't get the line to be the same thickness. You'll see here, if we have one line, it's not the same thickness and it looks off. If I increase the thickness, it makes it too long. So the way I got around that was I drew two lines and then I was able to match the thickness like so using two lines. One other problem I encountered in making this video was finding a suitable triangle. I needed a right angle triangle and I couldn't find one. So I had to build my own out of lines, and you can see the corners don't look particularly professional in this. However, I did find later that there is a set square, and a set square is the right type of triangle. However, it's a set square. So I did use this set square in one of the examples I used. Now, if you want to watch the whole video, you can use the link in the description below. Do let me know if you found this video useful, and do, of course, suggest things that you want tutorials for in Doodly. Thank you. Goodbye.